Picture waking up each day in a world where the language you use influences not only your thoughts, but also your capacity for critical thinking. In George Orwell's 1984, this chilling concept becomes a reality through the creation of Newspeak, a language crafted to restrict the scope of thought. Newspeak is not merely a set of new vocabulary, it is an entire system designed to limit how individuals can voice dissent, diminish their ability to grasp complex ideas, and eliminate subtleties that might challenge the party's power. It goes beyond simple censorship. It is a calculated reconfiguration of language aimed at shaping an individual's perception of reality. In a society where language is regulated, the way people engage with their environment, their history, and even their own identities is also controlled. The mind can function only within the confines established by language. When individuals lack the words to express rebellion, articulate freedom, or even understand truth, they become submissive and easily influenced. Orwell recognized that to dominate the masses, one must first control their language, as words fundamentally shape thoughts. This is not a far-off dystopian notion. It is a reality that is becoming increasingly pertinent in our own era. Have you ever sensed that certain discussions, ideas, or even entire movements are framed in ways that restrict how they can be talked about? Newspeak did not end with Orwell. It has transformed and is present today. Orwell's idea of doublethink advances the manipulation of thought even further. It's insufficient to merely restrict language. One must also condition the mind to accept contradictions, to hold two opposing beliefs at the same time without experiencing any cognitive dissonance. Doublethink enables individuals to accept that 2 plus 2 can equal 5, or that freedom equates to slavery, because they have been trained to view contradictions as part of their reality. They do not question these inconsistencies. They simply accept them as truth without any doubt. This psychological phenomenon extends beyond a mere thought experiment. It is observable in today's world, where contradictory political statements, media narratives, and social ideologies appear to coexist without raising any concerns among the public. For example, in contemporary political discussions, politicians, corporations, and social movements frequently present narratives that contradict themselves. A particular message may be communicated, yet it does not align with actions or policies, and still, people manage to accept it without scrutiny. In Orwell's universe, this acceptance stems not only from propaganda, but also from a system designed to condition individuals to believe in contradictions. It serves as an incredibly effective means of maintaining control, as it hinders people from critically analyzing the inconsistencies in their surroundings. Today, we inhabit a society where the impact of language on thought is widespread, albeit often more subtle than the totalitarian regimes Orwell cautioned us about. While Newspeak may not be the official language of today's society, we are undeniably observing a significant manipulation of language. Politicians, media organizations, and corporations frequently reshape language to influence public perception and steer the narrative. The phrase fake news exemplifies this trend, as it undermines any information that contradicts the favored narrative while legitimizing dubious or biased sources. The language we choose can either pave the way for new ideas or shut them down, making it challenging to consider perspectives outside the prevailing narrative. Take, for instance, the terminology used to address social and political matters. Phrases like cancel culture and social justice have transformed to carry charged, divisive meanings. What started as efforts to engage with critical social issues have been weaponized and tailored to serve particular agendas. Much like Newspeak, these expressions restrict the possibility for genuine, nuanced discussions. They create division, oversimplify complexities, and compel individuals to take sides without room for thoughtful consideration. A significant portion of our current discourse is designed to condense intricate issues into catchy phrases, shaping our worldview in a way that benefits those in power. As Orwell warned, those who wield control over language are not merely managing communication. They are also governing thought itself. But how much have we truly advanced since Orwell's era? In a society where censorship isn't always explicit, the manipulation of language has become increasingly subtle. On social media, search engines, and news outlets, we witness a real-time transformation of words as language itself turns into a battleground. The key difference is that we might not fully recognize how much our perception of reality has been influenced by outside forces. The very terms we use to articulate our identities, experiences, and surroundings have been meticulously crafted, often in ways we fail to notice. This issue extends beyond politics. It permeates culture, economics, and personal identity as well. Consider the emergence of terms like sustainability, diversity, or inclusion. While they seem progressive, their framing often restricts the breadth of discussion, discouraging alternative viewpoints or deeper, more critical analysis of the concepts they embody. Newspeak, at its core, is not merely a linguistic framework. It serves as a psychological mechanism aimed at stifling change by confining thoughts to predetermined categories. As we start to identify these patterns in our environment, we may begin to question, are we inhabiting a world where our thoughts are increasingly limited by language? Are we communicating in ways that hinder our capacity for free thought? The essence of thought control, as Orwell profoundly illustrated, resides not only in the words we use, but also in how those words can alter our understanding of what is possible, true, and real. Are we also becoming captives of our own language? In 1984, Orwell depicts a disturbing society that flourishes on fear, where the government's authority is upheld not through persuasion, but by the ever-present threat of danger. This situation goes beyond mere terror. It involves a strategic and calculated manipulation of the populace's emotional state. The party recognizes that fear is their most powerful weapon, as frightened individuals are not only easier to control, but also more inclined to relinquish their freedoms for the false promise of safety. This age-old reality reveals that fear can stifle thought, redirect actions, and warp perceptions. The strength of fear lies in its capacity to compel compliance without question, leading people to believe that sacrificing their liberties is the sole route to security. Orwell introduces us to the notion of the enemy, Goldstein, a character fabricated not from genuine opposition, but as a representation of an unending threat. Goldstein embodies an adversary that never vanishes, a perpetual boogeyman that legitimizes ongoing warfare, surveillance, and control. By channeling the collective anxiety of the populace towards this unseen yet omnipresent adversary, the party guarantees that citizens will never challenge the authority of their leaders. This foe serves as a means of fostering unity, a method to gather the masses under the pretense of safeguarding them. However, the reality is that Goldstein is a fabrication. He is a tool for widespread manipulation. This concept resonates strongly in our modern society, where fear is frequently exploited by governments, corporations, and media outlets to rationalize actions that might otherwise appear extreme. Consider how crises, whether genuine or overstated, are leveraged to justify invasions of privacy, heightened surveillance, and the growth of governmental power during periods of war, natural calamities, or political turmoil. Fear becomes the ideal rationale for enacting laws that restrict personal freedoms. We are led to believe that safety must come at the expense of privacy, that security necessitates control, and that freedom must be relinquished for the sake of protection. But how far can we allow this to progress before we recognize that what we are sacrificing is not merely our liberty, but our very humanity? It is crucial to understand that fear is not merely a reaction we experience. It is something that is deliberately constructed. It is an emotion that can be nurtured and directed with astonishing accuracy. The media plays a significant role in this, subtly influencing our fears and worries through sensationalized headlines and narratives designed to elicit emotional response. Whether it's the anxiety over a foreign adversary, the worry of job loss, or the dread of societal breakdown, we are incessantly inundated with messages aimed at instilling fear. Much like in Orwell's 1984, the more we succumb to fear, the less we challenge the status quo. The most insidious aspect of fear as a mechanism of control is its impact on our subconscious. In 1984, the party seeks not only to regulate actions but also to dominate thoughts. As Orwell illustrates, fear compels individuals to behave in instinctual ways rather than through rational thought. It drives people into a survival mindset where their main concern shifts to personal safety rather than advocating for political or social reform. Fear stifles any questioning of the existing order, keeping individuals in a constant state of compliance. This is where we can draw parallels to our own reality. How frequently do we encounter discussions about crises, pandemics, terrorism, or economic downturns, only to find ourselves instinctively relinquishing our rights? How often do we make decisions out of fear, only to later realize we've sacrificed more than we intended? We also witness how fear influences our perceptions. If your daily life is filled with narratives about threats, whether genuine or exaggerated, your perception of reality becomes one where danger seems ever present. This ongoing state of fear makes us more inclined to accept harsh measures, embrace surveillance, and tolerate the diminishing of our freedoms, as we are conditioned to perceive the world as far more perilous than it actually is. In George Orwell's 1984, the party understood that by instilling this perpetual fear, it could dominate not only actions but also thoughts, shaping a society too frightened to oppose it. We are led to believe that the world is a much more dangerous place than it really is. The party recognized that fostering this constant fear would allow it to control both behavior and mindset, creating a populace too scared to consider rebellion. In our current reality, we find ourselves increasingly enveloped in a culture of fear. This fear permeates not only the news, but also our everyday lives. As we remain anxious about economic downturns, environmental disasters, or impending political turmoil, fear is a formidable force, and when it is deliberately nurtured, it becomes nearly impossible to resist. It's clear how fear, when manipulated and intensified, can erode our freedoms and persuade us to relinquish more of our liberties than we would ever choose to give up. The most unsettling realization, however, is that we often remain oblivious to how deeply this fear is interwoven into the very fabric of our society. The question we face is whether we are conscious enough to prevent it from completely engulfing us. Orwell's 1984 presents a chilling idea that history can be rewritten, not just by altering records, but by obliterating entire pasts and reshaping collective memories. This manipulation of history serves not merely as a tool for the party, it is the very bedrock of their authority. In the realm of 1984, the Ministry of Truth is responsible for the continuous modification of historical accounts, adjusting facts to fit the party's constantly evolving narrative. The phrase "who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past" captures the core of totalitarian dominance. By perpetually altering what people perceive as true about the past, the party guarantees that it will remain unchallenged and unseated, or the past ceases to be a stable reality. Instead, it transforms into a flexible, malleable entity, easily molded to suit the demands of the present. The most alarming aspect is that the citizens of Oceania are not only compelled to accept these alterations, but are also conditioned to forget the actual truth entirely. Memory is modified to such a degree that individuals come to believe in histories that never occurred. The notion of objective reality loses its significance because, in this society, what is deemed true is dictated by the party, and what was true yesterday holds no weight if it contradicts the current narrative. This alteration of history guarantees that the party is never at fault. It simply fabricates a new narrative whenever necessary. The populace, stripped of any trustworthy source of truth, starts to view this as the norm, never questioning the discrepancies between the past and the present. This manipulation of history isn't limited to the world of 1984. It serves as a potent instrument that has been employed throughout various historical contexts. Consider how political regimes, whether totalitarian or otherwise, frequently seek to rewrite history to validate their current actions. For instance, some governments may erase or minimize uncomfortable historical events in their official accounts. This goes beyond merely presenting alternative facts. It involves crafting a new story that aligns with the government's objectives. By omitting or altering significant historical events, these authorities aim to construct a reality where their legitimacy remains unquestioned. Just as Orwell's party wields history as a tool to reinforce their dominance, contemporary governments and organizations manipulate history for similar purposes to influence perception, control the narrative, and maintain public compliance. The advent of digital media has only intensified this manipulation of history, making it more effective and insidious. In our current era, information continuously flows through the digital realm: facts, opinions, images, and videos. While the internet is intended to be the ultimate source of knowledge, it has also become a platform where historical facts can be erased, altered, or distorted at will. Consider the issue of cancel culture, where individuals or ideas are removed from historical records simply because they no longer align with current political or social norms. On digital platforms, videos and articles can be deleted, older posts can be obscured, and uncomfortable truths can be concealed. What was once a documented and accessible history now faces the risk of being rewritten by those who control digital spaces. In this digital era, truth is no longer a fixed entity. It can be constantly reprogrammed, updated, and modified in real time. Furthermore, the manipulation of historical records goes beyond merely editing articles or removing posts. It also involves the very construction of memory. When we examine how events are portrayed or discussed on social media, we notice that the narrative is shaped not only by facts but also by those who wield the power to steer the conversation. The platforms we utilize for communication, the algorithms that determine what we encounter, and the voices that are amplified all play a role in shaping our collective memory. The risk here is that, over time, we may become disconnected from the actual truth of events, replacing it with a version that aligns with the narrative of those in power. This process is so subtle and gradual that we might not even recognize it until it is too late. The erosion of an objective, unchangeable history also signifies a loss of identity. Our comprehension of our identity, origins, and the journey that has led us to our current state is rooted in historical accuracy. When that accuracy is undermined, our self-perception is also affected. It's akin to trying to find our way in the present without a map, landmarks, or a clear grasp of our past. We risk becoming adrift in a multitude of conflicting realities, with each historical account appearing equally valid, leaving us unable to discern which, if any, is authentic. As illustrated in Orwell's novel, controlling the past equates to controlling the future. The alteration of history is not merely about influencing the current narrative. It is about molding the future to ensure the party's continued supremacy. In our contemporary society, this manipulation can be equally pervasive. We must question how much of our understanding of the past is genuinely truthful, and how much has been meticulously shaped to serve a specific agenda. In a world where history can be erased, reprogrammed, and rewritten, how can we remain anchored in the reality of what actually occurred? How can we prevent ourselves from becoming victims of our own distorted memories? In 1984, George Orwell presents the concept of Big Brother, a representation of the intrusive power of relentless surveillance. While the surveillance in the novel is overt and oppressive, the reality we face today is often much more subtle. Orwell's idea of mass surveillance was not merely a forecast of a bleak future. It served as a caution about how the diminishing of privacy could lead to the downfall of freedom. In 1984, the party employs surveillance not only to keep tabs on its citizens, but also to guarantee their obedience. The cameras positioned in every nook, the concealed microphones in every space, and the ever-watchful presence of Big Brother all contribute to an environment where individuals no longer feel free to think, act, or even speak without the fear of consequences. The most dangerous aspect of this is that the surveillance is not solely for punishment. It is aimed at control. The party recognizes that when individuals are perpetually aware of being observed, they will start to regulate their own behavior. In today's world, surveillance has become an integral part of our everyday existence. We are under constant observation, not only by governments or law enforcement, but also by corporations, social media platforms, and even our personal devices. It's easy to overlook that each time we unlock our phones, surf the web, or share on social media, we leave behind a trail of data that is collected, analyzed, and utilized to forecast our actions. While it may initially appear harmless, this ongoing scrutiny has significant implications. Much like in 1984, where citizens resort to self-censorship due to the omnipresent gaze of Big Brother, we too have started to limit our own expressions. We refrain from expressing certain thoughts. We adjust our behaviors to align with the expectations set by algorithms. We suppress our authentic selves to evade conflict or criticism. This monitoring has evolved beyond mere physical observation. It has become ingrained in our daily lives. Take, for instance, the proliferation of facial recognition technology, which has infiltrated everything from law enforcement to commercial environments. What was once a concept of science fiction during Orwell's era is now a reality we encounter daily. Cameras are ubiquitous, tracking our movements, actions, and identities. Although this technology is frequently promoted as a means of ensuring safety and security, we must consider what price do we pay for this security? Similar to the party in 1984, we are led to believe that surveillance is for our benefit, safeguarding us from crime, terrorism, and chaos. Yet, we must ask ourselves, how much of our freedom are we prepared to relinquish in the name of safety? Additionally, we should examine the increasing data collection by corporations. Every click we make online, every purchase we complete, and every interaction we have on social media contributes to a comprehensive digital profile being constructed around us. This information is utilized to influence our desires, preferences, and even our political views. However, unlike the overt surveillance depicted in 1984, today's monitoring often masquerades as a service. We are led to think that we are engaging in a free exchange. We provide our data, and in return, we receive tailored advertisements, suggestions, and content. However, what we often overlook is that this so-called free exchange carries a hidden price. The more we share, the more we compromise our privacy, and the greater the control others exert over our lives. It's not merely about being observed. It's about the psychological impact of existing in a world where privacy is dwindling. In George Orwell's 1984, individuals become so used to being monitored that they lose trust in their own thoughts. They practice doublethink, accepting contradictions as part of their reality because the relentless surveillance pushes them into a state of mental conformity. We observe a similar pattern today, where every message, conversation, and post could be under scrutiny. We start to doubt ourselves. We question whether our views are too controversial, if our posts are too extreme, or if we are crossing some unseen boundary. Like the citizens of Oceania, we begin to self-censor. We grow fearful of speaking the truth or sharing our genuine thoughts, as the constant threat of surveillance means our private lives are no longer genuinely private. This decline in privacy is not merely a nuisance. It poses a fundamental risk to our freedom. Privacy is crucial for individuality. Privacy provides us with the necessary space to think, develop opinions, and explore ideas without the fear of being judged or facing consequences. When we forfeit our privacy, we compromise our true freedom. In George Orwell's 1984, this erosion of privacy is depicted as the ultimate means of control. The party's capacity to observe every detail of life, every thought, action, and interaction, leaves individuals powerless. In our reality, while the methods of surveillance may not be as blatant as those in Orwell's dystopia, they are equally perilous. The critical question is, are we conscious of the implications of this surveillance? And are we prepared to trade our privacy for convenience or security? Ultimately, the narrative of mass surveillance revolves around trust. Trust in our governments, trust in corporations, and trust in the protective systems established for our benefit. But how much trust should we invest in these systems? How much are we willing to relinquish? As Orwell's 1984 starkly illustrates, a life devoid of privacy equates to a life devoid of freedom. It is our responsibility to determine how much we allow the ever-watchful presence of Big Brother, in its various manifestations, to influence our lives and our society. In 1984, Orwell illustrates a reality where individuality is not merely suppressed, it is completely eradicated. In this world, divergent thinking is not just frowned upon, it is criminalized. The idea of thought crime is crucial for the regime's total control. The party's strength lies in the complete conformity of its citizens, and anyone who dares to question the established order faces severe punishment, essentially being erased from existence. The party recognizes that individual thought poses the greatest danger to its authority. If individuals are permitted to think freely, they might challenge the party's narrative, potentially sparking rebellion. Thus, the eradication of individuality is fundamental to the party's strategy for retaining power. The consequence of this is that, when individuality is suppressed, critical thinking is also stifled. People lose the ability to question their surroundings or confront the established system. The regime enforces a uniformity of thought that infiltrates every facet of life. This goes beyond merely controlling actions, it extends to controlling minds. In 1984, this is accomplished through the total obliteration of private thought and expression, from indoctrinating children with party ideology to eradicating any signs of dissent. The system relentlessly strives to forge a society where independent thought is impossible. Ultimately, individuality itself is treated as a crime that can lead to torture and death. The party seeks not only obedience, but also a deep-seated uniformity in the essence of human existence. While we do not currently live under an overtly totalitarian regime like that depicted in 1984, we are nonetheless witnessing a gradual decline of individuality in a society that increasingly prioritizes conformity. One significant way this occurs is through the normalization of groupthink, where individuals suppress their own beliefs, values, and ideas to align with the majority or those in authority. In politics, culture, and social media, there is mounting pressure to adhere to a specific narrative. Dissenting voices are often met with disdain, mockery, or even social exclusion. Those who question the prevailing worldview are branded as outliers, extremists, or enemies of the state. As this trend continues, we start to internalize the notion that individuality is something to be ashamed of. One of the most deceptive elements of this phenomenon is how it is presented as beneficial. We are led to believe that conformity fosters harmony, that groupthink signifies unity, and that those who oppose the status quo are merely attempting to create division. In the digital era, this pressure to conform is even more pronounced. Social media platforms, with algorithms that favor popular opinions, create echo chambers where only certain perspectives are amplified. This fosters a situation where individuals feel compelled to voice opinions that conform to the majority, even if those opinions do not truly represent their beliefs. The need for validation and acceptance becomes so overwhelming that many people forsake their own principles to blend in. Consequently, the system does not need to actively suppress individuality. It merely cultivates an atmosphere where people willingly relinquish it, fearing the consequences of standing out or speaking up. The most perilous aspect of this erosion of individuality is the lasting impact it has on our capacity for independent thought. When we cease to question and challenge the ideas we are expected to accept, we forfeit the very qualities that define our humanity. Critical thinking, the ability to question authority, and the bravery to be unique are essential for our growth as individuals and as a society. If we abandon these traits, we risk becoming mere components of a machine, with our thoughts controlled by those in power. Orwell's 1984 illustrates that when individuality is eradicated, the essence of humanity is jeopardized. The tragedy of the novel lies not only in the oppression of a people, but also in the loss of their ability to think freely, create, challenge, and envision an alternate reality. In our contemporary world, we must reflect on how much of our individuality we are prepared to sacrifice for the sake of conformity. A novel represents not only the oppression of a group of people, but also the erosion of their capacity to think freely, create, challenge, and envision an alternative reality. In our current society, we need to reflect on how much of our individuality we are willing to forfeit for the sake of conformity. How frequently do we suppress our own thoughts out of fear of judgment or rejection? The emergence of cancel culture, the vilification of dissent, and the pressure to align with a prevailing narrative all indicate that we are losing our sense of individuality. The more we permit these influences to mold us, the more we diminish our ability to think independently, advocate for our beliefs, and remain authentic to ourselves. The message from Orwell's 1984 is unmistakable. Relinquishing our individuality equates to relinquishing our freedom. So, consider this. Are you ready to confront the system that aims to erase your uniqueness? Are you willing to defend your right to think independently? While today's world may not mirror the exact dystopia Orwell envisioned, the forces that seek to control us and dictate our thoughts are undeniably present. If we are not vigilant, we may end up in a reality where individuality is no longer viable. If you found this video insightful, please like, subscribe, and activate the notification bell to accompany us on this journey of profound reflection. Remember, we release new videos daily that delve into the ideas shaping our world and our minds. Stay curious, stay alert, and continue to question.